Welcome to Scorched Earth and your general week ahead reading for the 28th of June to the 4th of July for the air signs. So that will be Libra, Aquarius and Gemini. Mine went blank a little bit there. So usually I do all of these in one big reading. It takes about 3.5 hours. But this week when I sat down at the table, I was very strongly instructed that I had to cut them into four, beg your pardon, into each of the elements. I'm still doing the individual readings, but they're going out as the elements. So we're going to start with Libra, and then we'll go to Aquarius and then to Gemini from there. The second thing that I was instructed when I sat down to do this is that this is a week for not getting bogged down in the minutiae of your day-to-day, which is interesting because these weekly readings really are about the kind of minutiae and the day-to-day stuff. But what I was asked to tell you is that this is really a week for pulling back and looking at the broader picture of your life. Where is it taking you? Where is it leading you? Because I think if you get stuck in the day-to-day stuff, you may miss this bigger picture stuff that's going on here. So to that end, what I've done is I pulled out the Spiral Oracle by Lila Acuna, I believe. It's been absolutely wonderful and very, very spot on to give this very big, broad, more spiritual overview of what is going on in your day-to-day. We'll clarify it with the tarot and then we'll continue using the tarot through there. Interestingly enough, I've got this brand new deck here, Tarot of the Abyss by Anatolian. Absolutely exquisite deck, and it was the one that wanted to be used. I haven't used this one before for the channel at all, but none of the others were responding. It was like, no, go and get that one over there. So this is the one that you've got. So I hope that makes sense. I'm sure it will. We're going to start with Libra. So I'm going to shuffle these 5 times, take one from the top, and that will be the theme for the week. So 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. So treasure is what we have for you, Libra. I'm going to read what the book says because there's been an awful lot of thought gone into the wording here, and I think it deserves to be heard. So get to it. Where was I? Everything was dark back there. My body had no strength anymore and my food tasted of emptiness. Where is the water to hydrate my dreams? It's here, something inside me started to scream. Before, I could not recognize the sunrise because I had no experience in the darkest night. I felt the density of my body, my emotions and my past. I had to accept all of it and let it go. I can now understand that the way back to myself is a journey of eternal beauty, and I am amazed and overwhelmed observing this path. I have just discovered the most beautiful wonder. Or is it the very first time that I have really seen the diverse beauty of the rainbow? How many surprises are there waiting for me? This card is all about honouring your path. Nothing happens by chance, and the road travelled is just perfect. I release the guilt associated with my past. I am now present. I embrace who I am, and I am thankful for my learnings. Thank you, life, for my new blank page. Well, I found that very interesting because, Libra, there have been times in the last few months where it does seem that you have skirted very, very close to a darkness that made you feel quite uncomfortable. You didn't drop into it, but you skirted close enough to it to remind yourself that it existed, that it was there. So let's get this absolutely exquisite deck out and have a look for the best way for you to navigate this particular energy that you should be holding within you this week. Tell me about treasure for Libra, please. Thank you. We have the Chariot and we have the Devil, which is interesting. The Chariot is the card of the self. Look at there. Right? It's a card that speaks of personal power. It's a card that speaks of duality consciousness, right? Everything that we experience in this world is dual. There are polarities. We have negative and positive, light and dark, night and day. Everything in balance. And Libra, is that not what you are about here? The Chariot card is all about that balance. It is about holding the light, but it is also about holding the darkness and knowing that really one needs the other to keep it balanced. There can be no one thing all the time. But it's also a card of determination. It's a card of setting goals and sticking to them. You know, it's a card of knowing where you are going and taking those steps towards where you are going. It is also the card of Cancer. I just want to throw that in there. And the Devil is the card of Capricorn, but it talks about all of those things that keep us stuck, trapped, you know, the things that we need to release. So the things that we need to release from ourselves. You know, I think it's really interesting that in this deck, exquisite as it is, we have there is a chap and he's bound up there, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's a heart right at the bottom there. And interesting that that oracle card there should have been talking about releasing guilt, because that's what that card says to me there. You know, it's trapped by the heart to something, something that's meant a lot to you. This card here, both of these cards as I'm looking at them, they really do seem to be talking about accepting that about yourself that you have found very difficult to do so, right? Accept it, release it, let it go, forgive yourself first and foremost. It's a really powerful pairing of staring directly at what it is that you are afraid of. You know, what is it about yourself that you completely disavow? Because for you, it does feel like there is some, not just some, great wisdom to be pulled out of the darkness for you. Two major arcana cards, just clarifying how you deal with your week. You know, I can totally see how this is a week to pull back and see the bigger picture of things, for sure. So let's have a look at your love and interpersonal relationships, not just romantic ones, interpersonal ones. I'm sorry about the noise, by the way. Despite the way that it sounds, I don't live on a building site, but apparently I do. There are things going on everywhere, and you know, in addition to the normal traffic and stuff, but hopefully the microphone's not picking it up too much. So tell me about love and interpersonal relationships for Libra, please. We have the Four of Pentacles. Interesting, because we're coming back to right now, for fuck's sake, this notion of release. What is it that you are holding on to, and what do you need to release? You know, we've got somebody there who's just clinging to those pentacles. Let's pull this clarifying deck out. What are you holding on to in your relationships? Because what you're holding on to in your relationships from the past is finding a way to eke out into the relationships that you have in the present. And it's a form of self-sabotage for sure. Tell me about this Four of Pentacles, please. Thank you. We have the King of Swords, Aquarius energy, and we have the Ten of Cups. Queen of Cups has fallen out to the side, which is very, very interesting. Libra, I do think that this refers to your past. Now, this could be some sort of masculine figure from your past, this King of Swords, but it doesn't have to be. It could equally have been, you know, your mother or someone like that. The characteristics of this card refer to somebody who is, you know, exceedingly preoccupied with with a sense of justice and fairness. And, you know, as a Libra, you would understand that very strongly. But sometimes there's such a removal of emotion from a situation when it comes down to whether something was right or wrong, that they can come across as quite cold, quite detached. There's something that you're holding on to here from your past, and it feels like it was your early experiences. You know, it was your understanding of family, how a family works, you know, what the family unit is. But we've got this fairly cold, detached figure here, and there's an awful lot kind of unraveling behind this that I can feel here, in so much as it might be the way that you have carried forwards then the way that you think family should be. It might be the way that you brought your family up too. And what this week is all about is kind of assessing whether you did the right thing. Now, this would absolutely link in very tightly with this and the notion of guilt that you may have been carrying around. You know, maybe you were a little cold, maybe you were a little detached, maybe you've been preoccupied with what was, you know, right and wrong in the eyes of other people, rather than, you know, something that sat with your particular moral compass. Like, it's going to be different for each of you. That is just an example. But it's almost like in reflection, you see that your early life wasn't actually quite as happy as you thought it was. It's almost like you kind of rewritten a narrative about your early life and what your understanding of what, you know, close family relationships were like. We've also got the King of Pentacles here. You've got two kings who are very, very preoccupied with justice, fairness, responsibility, duty, you know, provision of resources, but not necessarily emotional ones, you know. And you may have been completely oblivious as a child to the cold, detached nature of whoever this, well, it's probably going to be a parent, you know, who it was. And it is only with time and age and experience that you're now kind of looking back and you're saying, well, actually, do you know what? There were points where my emotions weren't really considered to be particularly valid. Like, it wasn't about me. Like, it really wasn't about me and the things that I needed, and where I was shown that having an emotional reaction to something was not particularly useful in the grand scheme of things. Maybe I became critical, maybe I became harsh in these ways, and then when my own children came along, maybe I, you know, kept that cycle going, something like that. But it certainly seems to be a week where all of this sort of stuff is coming to the fore for you, and it's uncomfortable. Most of the signs have had uncomfortable readings this month. It's kind of looking at it and going, that vulnerability was not encouraged in me, you know, an emotional articulacy. God. Articulousness. Whatever. Wasn't. It came and it went again then. Wasn't encouraged. You know, what was encouraged was, you know, problem solving maybe, or harmony, balance, things like that. You know, the nature of Libra is to bring harmony and balance to all relationships. And maybe what you are seeing here is somewhat of a shadow of yours that shows you a way in which, you know, harmony and balance were not two characteristics that you were exemplifying at some point. You know, certainly there seems to be, it would feel to me like some sort of, you know, possibly triggering event here where, you know, maybe through a conversation or just even a memory that just pops up from somewhere, you have no idea where, you know, just comes up, and it's altering the way that you're viewing all of this, and then it's casting this huge light over everything else, and you're like, oh. And I mean, some of you won't have children, like, for sure, but you can see it played out in your other relationships, in close, intimate relationships, or what you thought were close and intimate, but you see that were perhaps in places devoid of, you know, that emotional nurturing aspect of it. You know, maybe you have defaulted at times to people pleasing. You know, that is in the Libran shadow. Sometimes it's a thing that comes out. You know, you're so keen for harmony to reign that quite often you will step back from asserting what is your what your moral compass is saying is the right thing. You know, it's understanding that things aren't actually always black and white. There is that grey space in between, and maybe you were not brought up that way, and over time you learned that you just didn't say these, you didn't advocate these things for yourself. Feels like you're coming closer to your own particular center, Libra, though, so it's really, really valuable for you, even if the energy is quite challenging at this time. Let's have a look at your work and money and material environment. Oh. We have the Ace of Cups, so we've got something new appearing there. We also have the Ten of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. This is nice, because this is feeling like it's actually related, albeit tangentially, to what you're discovering about yourself and your emotional relationships. It seems like a shift. Like, we had the King of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck and we had the King of Swords there, right? Neither of them particularly known for being over emotional or investing emotionally in things. Like, those love languages spoken by those two kings are very, very different to the Cups, the nurturing, the emotional I wanted to say articulacy again, and I'm not even sure that that's a real word. Eloquency, let's say that instead. But it looks like there's an opportunity here for you to revise your particular material surroundings, whether it is through a job or business, or even where you live, where your home is at this point. The Ten of Pentacles is all about that which you commit to, right? So that's how we see it to be a job or a business. You know, if you've ever started your own business, you know, that is a labour of love in and of itself. But it can also depict the home. It can depict anything that requires effort to get it off the ground, and, you know, yeah, and stable. It's stable, secure, foundational kind of stuff. But there seems to be a change in the way that you're doing things now, because you're looking for that Ace of Cups in whatever you're doing. So maybe you've discovered that your job, actually you fucking hate it, and it doesn't give you the time to do the things that actually really make your heart sing, whether it is art, whether it is, you know, as some sort of hobby or something like that. Maybe you're thinking about turning a hobby into a business. I could totally see that being the thing as well. Ace of Cups. Are you fucking joking me? Right, hopefully it'll stop in a second. I am so close to flipping my fucking biscuits, I can't even tell you. Right, we've got the Hierophant and we've got the Three of Pentacles here. Right, I could actually see this very strongly as a move away from work and endeavours that are designed purely to bring in the pentacles to earn money, and those which are that which is kind of, like I said, making your soul sing, and you're like, well, I could probably earn some money doing this. I'm really passionate about it. It really makes me feel happy. Could I do it as a job? Could I do it, like, you know, could I maybe set up my own business doing this sort of thing? Possibly. Well, we've got the Hierophant. Is yet another card of stability, structure, but also commitment, right? There's also a card of having faith in yourself this week, and it seems to me that this week it's a really good week for following your heart on everything, wherever it may take you. We have the Three of Pentacles here, and that speaks specifically to working with other people, and so it could be that there's some way of you coming into partnership with somebody else who is also equally as, you know, emotionally ignited by the thought of doing this as an idea, right? It's a week to be open to the possibility of partnerships, because it looks like it would go very well for you if you do that. Let's have a look and see what your point of focus should be for this week. The point of focus for Libra, please. I'm going to pause this and I'll come back. Okay, noises minimal again now. So your point of focus for this week is the Two of Wands. Now this is interesting because the Two of Wands is a crossroads card, right? It talks about you having arrived at a crossroads. The thing is, I'm not entirely sure that all Librans will realise that they are there, but with the stuff that is going on with you this week, the release, you know, the facing of the things that you've not wanted to look at, looking specifically at this here, releasing of guilt, releasing of all of those things, it is bringing you to a crossroads, and you can choose from this point where you go from here. It's like there's an expansion of your life that's happening here, Libra, and it may not be entirely visible yet, but whether you perceive it or whether you don't, you are at a crossroads here now, and like I said, there's actually something really big wanting to happen here for you. So for you, it's a case of looking not only for opportunities, but the consideration of how it is that you want to live your life moving forwards. You know, you're not being punished in these things that have been coming up for you this week. That's not the purpose of it. It's about highlighting it so that you can acknowledge it, release it, let it go, and move away from it and live differently. Because the Three of Wands, as I'm seeing it increasingly recently as changed behavior. What we got here is a precursor to that. Now, what is a precursor to changed behavior? It's a realization that there is something that you want to change here, and for most of you, that is going to be, you know, carrying around this heavy weight with you that you have done for a long time that you don't need to anymore. Tell me about this too. I mean, that absolutely leapt out of the deck there. The Three of Swords with the Seven of Wands. What is it this week that makes you feel defensive? What is it this week that makes you feel hurt? Look at those things and acknowledge what's going on underneath it, because the sooner you acknowledge it, the sooner you turn around and face this, the sooner it is that these things stop dictating the way that you live your life, right? And by dictating the way that you live your life, what I mean is having that shadowy bit of your subconscious being in control. You know, the place coming from a place of fear rather than coming from a place of love and acceptance. Because like, it does feel like you're going to get triggered by something this week, Libra. And if you can, instead of reacting to it, if you can kind of step back from it and go, well, this is really very interesting. What is going on here? What is this telling me about myself? What is it telling me about what I've been carrying around for such a long time? Maybe it's time to let it go. You know? You come out the other end of the week feeling lighter than you go into it. What should Libra avoid this week, please? Thank you. We have the Three of Wands. Avoid trying to run before you can walk, right? We have the Tower at the bottom of the deck, and it is followed immediately by Temperance, right? The Tower is that destabilizing energy, and that's how a lot of people say, "Ooh, Tower's like that." Well, it is, right? It's sudden, shocking energy that kind of knocks you sideways, and sometimes it can be, you know, the loss of a job or something like that. But the way the Tower's been coming out for people this week, particularly, it's more to do with a course correction of the mind, a course correction of the subconscious than anything else. Right? It is showing you what you don't need anymore. It's showing you where your faulty foundations are. And rather than panicking about that, what's going on in your head, observe it, acknowledge it, release it. You know, the Temperance card is, even there, look, it's just got that light, elevated feel about it. If you can release these things and let these things go, then that's brilliant. But don't try and change your behavior before you've acknowledged what it is that you know that you've been carrying around with you at this time. The Three of Wands will come, but the Two of Wands needs to do its work first. Tell me about the Three of Wands, please. See, we've got the Nine of Pentacles and the Moon here, and there are a couple of things that spring out immediately, and the first one is putting your head in the sand, and I don't know where that's coming from, but that's what I'm feeling here from this card. Like, don't be tempted to put your head into the sand about the things that are really important, the things that are really meaningful. You know, don't sort of scratch the surface of it and go, right, well, that's enough. I've done my work for this week, and now I shall change my behavior, and I'll be a changed person, and everything will be great, because that's not really how it works. And with the Tower being there, like, there's something really quite fundamental going on underneath, and we see it here with the Moon card. Don't be sitting there going, oh, everything's fine, you know, I'm just going to sort myself out and everything's going to be good, because there's something really deep going on here for you, Libra. And like I said, the more willing you are to engage with that at the depth that it wants to engage with you on, the more likely, the lighter you're going to feel at the end of it, because the more stuff is going to shift. The other way of looking at it, which disappears from my view now I've said that, Consider if you're being ruthlessly independent about things. You know, consider whether it is more important for you to be seen to be coping than to actually be coping. It's kind of a variation on a theme there of putting your head in the sand. You know, it's not necessary for you to project this all of the time. Sometimes it's okay to acknowledge the fact that you are burdened and that you are struggling with something, you know. Yeah, definitely. So Libra, I'm going to leave it there. I really hope that helped. I'll tidy these away. Start again. So all of those are there and there and there. I'll get this one. And we shall move on to Aquarius. So 5 shuffles for Aquarius. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. The card for Aquarius is Ancestral Warmth. I'll read you the words. It says they're in alphabetical order and they're not. Ancestral warmth definitely comes before a new sprout, but a minor quibble. The sun rises every morning, shining in its perfection. It is in the centre of the sky, just as the heart is in the centre of my being. In the sun I recognise the power and direction of life. So now is the time to ask myself, what direction am I taking? Are my thoughts, words and actions in accordance with the direction of the sun? Am I able to observe myself honestly in my own solitude and in my own community? The direct light of the sun gives me the chance to see clearly what my limits are, what makes me shine in a genuine way, and what ignites my soul. I see this direct call as an opportunity to illuminate my personal and collective space. Blood runs through my veins, just as it does the veins of any human being who crosses my path. There is a voice rising from within and amongst the crowd, illuminating everything in its path. This is my voice, just as the silent voice of the voiceless speaks through me. So looking back at our origins and our present, I recognise the wisdom and pain of people. I recognise the neglected ethnic roots, the original cultures, those who live in the margins and those unseen. I illuminate the corners of my personal and our collective history with all the light that emanates from my heart. The time is now. It is time to embrace this knowledge and to row our boats as equals, as brothers and sisters, in the direction of life. The card meaning is reflect. What do I need to address and nurture to fill my spaces with light and meaning? I focus on the natural, terrestrial, astronomical and human paradise that surrounds me. Today I received the luminous nourishment of the sun, opening up new horizons. With humility I rebuild the bonds, repair the damage without making the same mistakes. The sun will rise for us all. This is astonishing, Aquarius, because the reason that I smirked as I was reading, because my eyes had flicked ahead and I'd seen the word horizons. And as I was shuffling the cards, I was thinking about the fact that Aquarius is always looking at the horizon and that they are also the humanitarians. Now, you know, there's generational karma being kind of implied here. Certainly something that you are working on in that sort of way, but it seems to be speaking to that purest part of you, Aquarius, which is the humanitarian, which does work on those, you know, principles of community and things like that, being the glue that holds these things together, but also being the visionaries and being able to see beyond the here and now and where we are. I mean, it's a big fucking energy in you right now. And is Saturn not in Aquarius at the moment? I mean, that would fit beautifully. I'm sure it's in Aquarius. Yeah, I think it is. But by all means, if I'm wrong, correct me in the comments. But there's certainly Saturnian influences at play, let's put it that way. So again, like with Libra, I'm using the Tarot of the Abyss for you. Let's have a look and see if the way that Aquarius needs to navigate this week. We have one card, and it is the Seven of Swords. Fuck, I'm not taking all of those. That was Justice, the Eight of Cups and Strength, but I'm going to put them back in because they're just kind of vomited out of the pack there. Ancestral Warmth, thank you. Seven of Wands, we've got 2 sevens there. 2 sevens. Sevens are very spiritual numbers. The way I see things is like 4 is kind of foundation, it's building foundations. When the 5 comes along, it blows it up, not for shits and giggles, but to give you an opportunity to kind of like refine what you're doing and stuff like that. It's like miniature tower energy, right? The 6 then is about moving away to a safe distance from, you know, whatever that was. And when you hit the point of the 7 for me is about consolidating those lessons. It is taking, you know, everything that you've learned, you've got to a safe distance, you can look back and go, what have I learned here, right? And put it all into the right places in you and go, right, this is how I move forwards now, you know, with this new wisdom that I've gathered along the way. The Seven of Swords and the Seven of Wands is really quite interesting, because in both cards, I have a sense of work for you here, and by work, what I probably mean is more purpose than anything else. That's the feeling that's kind of flowing through this as we stand. The Seven of Swords can deal with deception, but it also talks about risk. And more than that, it talks about being a lone wolf. It kind of talks about standing apart from people, from the herd. Now, with your unique perspective on things, with that way that you are able to see things on the horizon, you know, and that humanitarian thing, it's almost like look back so that you can look forward. Look back so that you don't repeat the mistakes of the past. We are building a new paradigm now. You know, that is why you are here, 2021, as an Aquarius. You are a fundamental part of that new paradigm. And at times, it is going to need you to stand apart from things. It is going to need you to take a risk on that, kind of separating out from the herd just a little bit, so that you can kind of, you know, maybe scramble up onto the hillside and have a look. Make sure that your view is as far out as you think it is. Because once you know the destination, you can track back how you're going to get there, you know. And this Seven of Wands, it's usually a pretty defensive energy, as in guarded. But for you, I'm feeling here it's very protective. You know, the card is very nuanced. Those are two different things, defensive and protective. But it might well be that the protection that you can offer here is guarding against repetition of mistakes of the past. Now, there are ways to look at this in a very flat 3D kind of way, and I've got to be honest, I couldn't be less interested in those. I'm sorry, but I'm not. This feels so fucking spiritual, so fucking powerful, that there's something much, much bigger at play here for you. And it actually feels like a very, very special week for you, Aquarius. And, you know, sort of taking your eye off what's going on in front of you doesn't feel like it would be a bad thing. It feels like it's a week of contemplation and reflection. It's a week of acknowledging perhaps the mistakes that you have made in the past, but the mistakes that have been made collectively in the past. You know, the interesting thing about Aquarius is not only do we have this kind of future-facing, looking at the horizon kind of energy, which is often associated with new technology too, which then can be really quite cold, right? I actually read something yesterday on the UK government website, which was all about the future of human augmentation, and my blood ran fucking cold. I'm not even joking, because then, you know, I was kind of like 50 pages into this document, and I said to my partner, there hasn't been a single fucking thing about the ethics of this yet. And then I found the section on ethics, and it wasn't good. But then Aquarius is also concerned with the humanitarian aspect of being human. Now, whether you realise it or not, we are at a critical juncture here. This document that I was reading yesterday from the UK government suggests that in the future, you know, we may not be able to categorise ourselves as human anymore because of the degree of augmentation that we have, you know, undergone. And if anybody's interested, fucking let me know and I'll send you this document, because it's fucking terrifying, right? But then we have this notion of community, the principle of humanitarian stuff. Like Aquarius, you feel to me like the sign that is the one that is able to get this right. Now, I said to a friend of mine a couple of weeks ago that my dream for the future is that we could take all of this amazing technology that we have and we could do something that really benefits humanity as a whole, rather than changing the nature of humanity as a whole to the point where we can't even identify as human anymore, and human rights laws do not apply anymore because you're not fucking human, you know? Without putting too much pressure on you, it feels a lot like you're that point of integration. You are the one that can take the wonder and the magic, right? And technology sufficiently advanced and insufficiently understood will always be indistinguishable from magic, right? It's my favorite quote in the entire world. You can take that, the magic of the technology, and you can find a way that humanity benefits as a whole, right? Not the 0.01% up there and the useless eaters underneath, but as a whole. Now this, not all of you in a position where you can advise governments and things like that, but you are in a position to be able to absorb all of this information and then start in the 3D, educating people, pushing for things, you know, like you're pushing the humanitarian side of this. We have the technology. What we have a complete lack of at this point is humanitarian behavior, right? The powers that be, if you want, are in an incredible exercise of division in all sorts of ways, right? Pitting the masses against each other. You need to be able to gather them all up, Aquarius, and show them how beautiful they are, beautiful and messy as humanity is. You know, it is still beautiful. Find a way to bring the two things together. Now, I'm sorry, I've just kind of dropped that on you, but I don't feel it was by a mistake that I was sat reading that document last night, and then here we are with these things going on here. I've been told before not to worry about dropping too heavy a shit on Aquarius, because you all can deal with it because your galactic brains and stuff. So yeah, like this needs your galactic brain, Aquarius. So let's have a look at your love and interpersonal relationships. We have the Star. Aquarius, what the fuck? Like this, that is literally the card of Aquarius, but it's everything that I've been talking about. Look at you there. Well, who are you? Are you the woman reaching for the star, or are you the star itself? Either or, both, maybe. It's a card that speaks about connection. It's exactly there, you know? Now, I did say I didn't give a shit about the 3D aspect of anything, and that's actually not entirely true now. I realise that, you know, because ultimately we are spirits having a human existence, and the 3D stuff is how we learn, right? So strike that from the record. I shouldn't have said that, because I didn't really mean it. You point the way. You know, whether you are this woman here, this spirit having a human existence, pointing to the star, saying there is hope right there, or whether you are the star itself pointing the way by just existing. You know, everything about the way that you are is the way that we're trying to move forward, Aquarius. And there's a way that there's a need for you to find a way to start expressing that, whether it is literally just in your family, you know, with your close friends or whatever. You know, there's a whole network of Aquarians out there, and between you can reach a great deal of people. Never think that you can't do anything because you're just one person, because that's not true. Tell me about the stars, please. Oh, I mean, fuck. You were born for this, Aquarius. Like, there's the second card of Aquarius right there, the King of Swords. Like, your galactic brain. You know, that's what those two cards say to me together. Like, your fucking galactic brain. Right? Oh, fuck me, this is getting heavy. Got the Judgment card. We are at a critical point. We're at a really, really critical point. And you start small. If that's all you have, start small. Start with the people that you know, your intimate relationships, and then move them out to a little bit wider than that. You have a sphere of influence, Aquarius, And I don't know if it's bigger than you think it is, or whether it's got the capacity to get a great deal larger than you think it is. But it's there nonetheless. You know, judgment can talk about the resurrection of things from the past. It can talk about you taking a really firm judgment on something, and we would definitely see both of those cards indicating that way. Now, if you're going to make a good judgment on something, then you need to have all of the information at your disposal so you can sift through it. And I would posit that you are one of the signs that is uniquely placed to be able to sift through this and take into account all of the things that need to be known. But the Judgment card also is indicative of, you know, end of days. I mean, it's literally the end of days being depicted there. We are at a really critical point, and every single relationship that you have at this point is important. The influence that you have on any relationship that you conduct, romantic, familial, any of it, is important. There's a spiritual awakening going on here for you, Aquarius. And I don't know if it's one of those big earth-shattering ones, or whether it's you know, relatively minor in the grand scheme of things. But you are being called to use your influence wherever you can. Let's have a look at your material environment, as irrelevant as that seems right now. We've got the Four of Cups. So the Four of Cups, you know, it talks usually about rejection. It talks about taking for granted, or being taken for granted, you know. It can talk about isolation and loneliness, and there is, again, this notion of you standing alone to one degree or another for a bigger purpose. Ace of Pentacles, Five of Cups. Like, it seems that there's something going on in your material environment. Now, this could be, you know, your collective material environment, as in the fucking planet that you live on right now, right? That there's something about it that grieves you greatly, because we go from the Four to the Five. You know, there's almost a what's the fucking point kind of feeling about this. And with that Eight of Pentacles there, it's kind of like, what's the fucking point? It doesn't matter how hard I work at something, it's not going to change. Well, that's not true. But this week may make you feel like that. The point is, with you hitting this big fucking spiritual lesson, as you know, shown here in the previous cards, this is for you to work through. This is a personal journey as well as a collective journey. What you fix in yourself, you fix in the collective. You know, Leo is having this spectacular struggle at the moment, dealing with power and how one empowers oneself when literally everything is falling apart around them. Like, you know, really, really struggling with that at the moment. And I mention it because they are your opposite sign, right? So what's going on with one is usually having some repercussions with the other, and I suspect it's the Saturn Aquarius with you, which is kind of having the knock-on effect for Leo, in amongst other things. But maybe that message is also one that Aquarius needs to hear. Like, you know, it's about keeping that point of focus into where you want to go, whilst also being able to reflect on the mistakes that have been made in the past, whether, like I said, they were yours or humanity's or, you know, whoever's. And being able to sift all of that information and take from it what is important. It looks like something in your material environment is going to be deeply disappointing this week. And it does also look like, like I said, it's going to be very tempting to go, oh, fuck, it doesn't fucking matter. Like, whatever I do, I am thwarted. But the message here is to push through. Right? Just keep fucking going. Because potentially things aren't what you think they are. You know, there are a lot of energies that are up in the air at the moment. It is pandemonium, energetically speaking. Like, I don't know how any of us who are even remotely sensitive are still functioning, to be honest. It's just kind of getting battered from all sides. But push through. What does Aquarius need to focus on this week, please? The Three of Cups. And the Queen of Pentacles. These cards are beautiful. Well, the Three of Cups we see here is emotional support networks, right? And if you extrapolate that up and make that bigger, then what we're talking about is that humanitarian principle that I'm talking about. It's like seeing all as equals. Did we not see that in the Oracle card reading there? All as equals, like all of us having a part to play. And then, you know, playing your part in this wider picture. But we also have the Queen of Pentacles here, and this is absolutely beautiful. I just love Anna Torian's work. Check that, right? She's dropping that pentacle. I don't know whether she's taking it out of the ground or whether she's putting it in. I suspect she's probably putting it in. She's planting a seed. And this is one that she knows is not going to, you know, bear fruit immediately. This is going to take nurturing, it's going to take care, it's going to take a bit of dedication, a bit of commitment to it. And eventually it will become self-sustaining. It's also a card of knowing the value of the self, interestingly enough. You know, the self as within a group, but also as separate from a group. Do you know? Like I said, the energy is so chaotic at the moment, but it feels like you learning to navigate in between that, like keeping your singular focus, but also keeping an eye on this as well. So, like you kind of relatively uniquely placed to do. Maybe not uniquely, because I think that Leo is probably doing the similar sort of thing, albeit coming from a slightly different angle and struggling with slightly different things. I think the end result potentially is the same. We have the Moon, we have the King of Cups, and we have the Nine of Pentacles. The Moon is the things that are hidden, but it is the subconscious, it's the non-conscious. You know, where are you holding yourself back in particular ways? Where are you holding yourself back from the collective? Where are you holding it back from yourself? But with this King of Cups too, it's like, where do you stand emotionally? Don't forget to bring the emotion into this. This is the important thing. This is the thing that makes you relatively unique. Right? This does set you apart from Leo, because Leo comes from a place of love always, right? But not necessarily a place of technological understanding at all, right? Futuristic, no, not really. Like, we'll lead the way, we'll lead the charge, but you gotta, you know, tell us where we're going. The thing that sets you apart from the tyrants, the thing that sets you apart from the totalitarian, the leaders, is this. It's compassion. It's humanity, compassion for humanity, right? And the ability for you to be able to stand alone. Like, Aquarius is an incredibly rebellious sign anyway, like in between you and Sagittarius. I imagine you're fucking awful teenagers. Actually, my daughter's a Sagittarius. Oh yeah, right. Just kind of skirt around that one, right? But over time, you find ways of kind of taking off the edges of that. Well, what if your rebellion, Aquarius, is to get you to that point of being comfortable in it, being able to stand alone, stand aside from the crowd, where the crowd is potentially going in the other direction, and remembering who you are enough that you can remain centered and continue to point the right way, because eventually people will turn around and they will start to go that way, right? Hopefully before things go too far. What should Aquarius avoid this week? There we go. King of Wands in reverse. Avoid sticking your head in the sand, Aquarius. Avoid thinking that this is somebody else's problem, that there isn't anything for you to do here, because it's not true, right? From a grassroots level up, right? Everybody is responsible. There's a star at the bottom of the deck there. I just did notice. Now, I think for the most part, the Aquarians that are watching this right now are hearing the call. They know that they are here to do something, and to a lesser or greater degree, they may already know what that is. But for those of you who are confused, for those of you who are fully feeling this pull and not knowing which way to go with it, well, this is it. And don't try and pretend that it's not your issue, right? Because that's a kind of that's a really 3D way of looking at it. Well, you know, I'm just gonna keep doing my job, and you know, hopefully I'll be able to go on holiday next year and stuff like that. No. This is a spiritual war that we're in, and Aquarius, you've been called up. Right? That like you are being activated now. Right, that's the King of Wands. Got the Seven of Cups and the Wheel of Fortune in reverse. Okay. Don't fall prey to this. It's also confusing. I don't really know. Like, don't use your 3D brain here to try and work out what's going on. This is a soul purpose, soul calling, and you have, like I said, you've been enlisted, you've been called up, you are now activated, Aquarius, and whatever you feel like you need to do, and I mean do, not do, then this is a week to start putting that into practice, right? Don't fall into this trap that there's nothing that I can do to influence it, right? That just because it's not the case. However madcap it may feel to you, whatever you are drawn to do this week, right, particularly as it relates to communities and, you know, the use of technology or whatever, whether it's advocating for something, whether it's just having conversations with people, whether it is showing leadership by the way that you are conducting yourself right now, right? Whatever you are drawn to do, keep doing it and do it more. Do it more. And if you get to the point where you are starting to stand on the fringes alone, then you know you are in the right place. You know you are doing the right thing, because it is where you are supposed to go. But the very last thing where you just shouldn't even consider doing it is putting your head in the sand and going, no, I've kind of got a weird feeling about stuff, but actually I'm just going to keep my head down and I'm just going to keep working and it'll all be fine. Yeah, everything will open up soon and everything will go back to normal. It'll all be great. No, that's not what's happening here. Not by a long shot. So, Aquarians, like I said, you once did tell me that you didn't mind these kind of slightly out there readings, and that's what you've got. So, I hope it wasn't too out there for you. Right, I dropped a couple of cards down there. I'll put my deck the right way down. Oh, gold. Everything's freaking up. Alright. So, finally, we will move on to Gemini. Same rules apply. I should give these 5 shuffles. And then we'll get on with it. So, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Gemini, your card is Sacred Sexuality. Nice. Okay, let's have a look and see what it says. Wait, it says it's in alphabetical order, right? But not quite. Right, here we are. I connect with the constant beat of life that inhabits me. I am in tune with the sacred drive of my sexuality. My sexuality is life and is nature. Therefore, I open up the doors to my creativity and open myself to that energy flow. I know myself. I respect myself. I look after myself. I trust and I learn from loving myself. I observe the movement of the sacred and the profane. I transform the subtle and vulnerable energies elevating my sexual drive, a large forest filled with mysteries, a dance of energies, a point of contact that contains the life force of creation. I integrate my invigorated self, stimulating mind, body and emotions. I unclog blockages and I connect with the cosmic mind. I glimpse the mysteries of the universe. Yeah, that's it. Right. That's all like base chakra stuff, right? And is it not related to it's root chakra, sacral? I don't know. Right? Is it not all related to, you know, things like stability as well, though? You know. Thing is, regardless of whatever it is, there were a couple of things that really stood out there for me, Gemini, and then the first is this creative plunge, because I've seen this coming in and out for you in the readings for the last few months, right? Like really being able to tap into a deep creative well. Chaos and darkness and sexuality, all of them kind of working in together here. It's that ability that you have to kind of sink into that, the chaos, the darkness, the sexuality, whatever it is, like all of that, to pull creativity from it, right, and weave it into something new. It's talking very specifically about removal of blockages for you. So if there are things that you are struggling with at the moment, it's maybe a good time to be to meditating on those, you know, and you might look specifically at anything that relates to guilt and shame and those acts for you, because there's no place for guilt and shame in any of those. Look at that, patting your back. But they're showing you where you have blockages on your creative flow, and this is really important for you this week, Gemini. How should Gemini navigate this energy, please? Wow. Look at that. We have the Six of Cups, we have the Devil, and we have the Sun. Now those two there speak to me very, very clearly of blockages that were developed in youth, right? Embarrassment, shame, guilt, particularly as it relates to sex. And the ways in which it manifests itself in the here and now, you know? So where have you cut your emotional your emotional, oh God, what am I trying to say? Your emotional center away from the act of sex. Like, is that a thing? I know a few people for whom that is a thing. It's like, I can't form intimacy with people that I have sex with. It's not possible, you know. For other people, it's an overinvestment of those things there. But this talks to me about guilt and shame that was developed in childhood or youth, at least, there, that you are still holding on to, that is forming a blockage to your creativity moving forwards. The Sun is a card of liberation. It is a card of being. It is a card of Leo, right? And Leo is fire, so we're absolutely associating this here with sex. But it's pure, unabashed, unembarrassed joy, exploration of the self, all bits of the self, you know, however that applies. You know, the mind and body are not separate. And if you have hang-ups about any particular part of your body and the functions and the way that those functions exercise themselves, then that is a blockage on your spirit. It's a blockage on all these things. It's about releasing into it, losing the shame, right? Just being vulnerable, being like, hey, here's me, I'm naked. Something to think about, at least. Anyway, let's have a look. And for you, I am also, like I did for Libra and Aquarius, I'm also using the Tarot of the Abyss. So let's have a look and see what love and relationships I've got going on. I've got two. We've got the Three of Cups and we've got the Seven of Swords. That's interesting. Let me write this. So you may be dealing with a Taurus, you may be dealing with a Leo, you may be dealing with a Libra actually, or none of those may be at all present. But there's something really rather beautiful happening in your relationships this week, Gemini. We've got, like I said, we've got the Three of Cups and we've got the Seven of Swords. Now, the Seven of Swords does often have pejorative meanings, but it also has something, you know, not every card in the tarot is all negative or all positive. There are flip sides to both. And the flip side of the Seven of Swords is taking a risk. You know, it's really putting yourself out there. And it's here with the Three of Cups. And it feels like a risk of putting yourself out there and really developing bonds with people this week, right? It doesn't feel like it's specifically one person. It feels like it's a collective. It's like knowing who your tribe are and really seeking to encourage those bonds. Maybe widening your circle somewhat so it includes more people, because we've got the Ace of Cups. Now, the Ace of Cups is new love. Right, but because this is interpersonal relationships as well as love and all of these things, right? We're talking about the fuck off, right? We're talking about the potential that exists for you to have meaningful and deep relationships with a whole number of people, right? And new people here, right? So just pure potential for you to tap into. But it can also talk about the self. It's got that clarifying, purifying vibe to it there, where perhaps in the acceptance of yourself and bits of yourself that you have found difficult, what we have here then is a resurgence, is a renewal of love for yourself. Do you know? An open and compassionate response, not just to other people but also to yourself. We've got the Empress and we've got the King of Wands here. And I actually feel like there are new people coming into your environment, Gemini. Whether or not they're right in front of you, or whether it's over Zoom, or, you know, there are new connections being forged this week. And they are strong. They have the potential to be very, very strong, actually. I haven't done this for any other reading, but I just want to clarify that King of Wands there, because he's kind of... Where's the King of Wands here? Could well be a week for actually patching up. Patching up relationships that have kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit. Maybe you've fallen out with people or something. We've got the Five of Wands coming out in reverse to clarify this King of Wands here. Like I said, King of Wands is Leo, Five of Wands is also Leo. You may be dealing with a Leo, you may not. But this is about taking action, right? It's the masculine presentation of the fire energy, so it's all about being very, very active and doing things, right? And what you're doing, the thing that you are doing, is bringing harmony to something. Perhaps you are bringing harmony to a relationship that's kind of fallen by the wayside, somebody that you've fallen out with. But there's harmonious energy over all of this. But there's also the suggestion that there's something that you kind of need to put your neck out a little bit for here, you know? But whatever it is, there's this harmonious energy is open for you to use this week, and it would be a good thing for you to use to repair broken relationships, but also to open yourself up to the new people that look like they're kind of wandering along, just looking for a Gemini to bump into, you know. Let's have a look at your material environment. We have the Sun. Oh, that's stonking. Another card of Leo, but it's a card of well, it's the second time that fucking Sun's come out for you, actually. It's a card of joy, right? Unbridled, unashamed joy. It's the most positive card in the deck, so whenever it appears, you know, it augurs that things are going very, very well. I noticed that we also have the Empress with the Ten of Pentacles at the bottom of the deck. So if you run your own business, you know, you can expect things maybe to start to expand, because we do see that with the Sun, we see that expansion. But we also see it with the Empress. She's often depicted as pregnant because she's gestating something new that's coming into the world. And she is also, sorry, I'm going to go next door, I'm going to headbutt the shop fitters, I think. I'm not going to do that, but I would like to do that. She is literally expanding in the creation of the new thing that's coming in. We see that this word is coming back again and again and again. It's this creation, creation, creation. This week is about removing your creative blockages, right? And it feels like it's gonna, there's almost an instantaneous energy to it. So you remove a block, you get almost an instant reward. And you're like, oh, look at that. And that reward could come in many shapes. It could be that you feel that energy flowing through you, you feel that creativity flowing through you, and suddenly you have a fucking genius idea about something that you can do for your business, you know? If it's work, then we have you being seen. We have you being noticed by people, you know? We have people going out, oh, who's this Gemini here? Like, they're actually pretty awesome, you know? It's like you're visible now. And not just visible, but capable with it. You know, you're being seen for the good things that you're providing to the employer, to the business. Your finances could be expanding, but it's suggesting a structure that's being built here. Like, your commitment is paying off this week. Maybe seeds that you planted a long time ago are starting to come to fruition under the light of the sun. We have, we have the Temperance card and we have the Ace of Pentacles. The Temperance card, I feel, is actually looking back at what I literally just said at the, what did I just say? Fuck, it's gone straight out of my head. Oh, the removal of those blockages, right? Which is in and of itself a form of healing. You remove the blockages and that creative energy flows, and suddenly you're like, oh shit, okay. Bing, opportunities arising. It could be a new job, could be a new business, could be a new direction for your business to move into, possibly. It could be something that you've been working on for a long time, something like that. But whatever it is, your work, your business, finances, they all look pretty fucking good this week. And that's a nice thing to be able to report. Let's have a look at what Gemini's point of focus should be this week. It's actually the Four of Swords in reverse, which is interesting. Because the Four of Swords in the upright is my meditation card. It is about rest and recovery, kind of a drawing back, a taking a break from things, you know, and an isolating of oneself where you process, you know, whatever happened in the Three of Swords. Except that it's come up in the reverse for you. So this is coming out of a state of withdrawal. And I think, I can't attest to it, but I think that in the monthly reading for you, it actually came up that you had been quite withdrawn during this time. It's coming out of that state and going, actually, do you know what? I'm ready to people now. You know, you're an incredibly sociable sign anyway. You know, you are at your best when you have a group of people to be bouncing off, you know, that fizzy mental energy. It's quite infectious, you know, and it's it's time for you to get out and share it now with people. Ooh, we've got the Queen of Cups and we've got the Four of Cups in reverse. That's beautiful. That's another reversed four. Wheel of Fortune at the bottom of the deck. So you have, you know, learned something. Look at that. The Three of Cups is underneath there. Whatever you've been learning in your state of withdrawal, it's now time to share it with more than, you know, with other people, with your group, with these new people that are coming along. You know, we've got compassion here and we've got receptivity too, which is the most receptive queen in the deck. And it's almost like what you give out, you are going to get back, Gemini. And what you're giving out is gratitude. It just feels like you're spilling over with gratitude everywhere for everything. You'd be gratitude for these new people coming in and, you know, this new fodder for mental, you know, ignition, you know, all that sort of thing. But this sense of what you're giving out coming back to you is really, really strong. There's a lot coming to you this week, Gemini, it feels to me. Let's have a look and see what you should try and avoid this week. Well, that one wanted to come out, didn't it? The Empress in reverse. Okay, right then. Avoid the Empress in reverse. Avoid blocking any of these things, right, coming to fruition. Like I said, I told you what the Empress in the upright means already. When it's coming out there, it's delays, it's blockages. It is, perhaps, a degree of self-sabotage. And Gemini. Because you've been struggling. On and off, you've been struggling for months. And you've kept it very much to yourself. You haven't really shared it that much that I've felt, at least. But then I don't think that you do. I think that surprises people because you're so loquacious. You know, you're very talkative. You talk about all sorts of things all the time, but often it's a cover for the fact that for the things that you really don't want to talk about that are kind of pushed out of the way here. Things have been hard. As they start to improve, don't second guess it. Don't mistrust it. You've had the Empress appear 3 times here for you now. And don't cut yourself off from your creative potential. And the Empress is all about creative potential, right? We've got the King of Swords turning up here, and we've got the Knight of Wands. You know, we've got that kind of cold energy with the King of Swords, sorry. Trying to be too intellectual about stuff, when actually it's the emotional, abundant side of you that is trying to come in here, right? I feel like this King of Swords is the self-sabotage kicking in and going, you can't trust this because everything's been very, very hard, so why would it suddenly be good? And it's like, well, because you've been doing loads of work, Gemini, that's why. The Knight of Wands, you know, it's quite a reckless energy. But it's very here and now. Like, both the swords and the wands suit are both very fast moving. And actually the energies that are supporting you the most here at the moment are the slower ones. And I know they're not yours. I know it's air and you like that fast movement. But we've got cups and pentacles. You know, water and earth essentially being most of what is supporting you here. And it's like, well, just keep plodding a little bit. Be open to receiving whatever is coming in, whoever is coming in for you, and don't look for ways to logic yourself out of what is coming towards you, because that is self-sabotage 101, Gemini. Right, I'm going to leave it there. I'm so terribly sorry for the interruptions, the drill noises and stuff like that, but like I would have to sit and do these videos at, you know, between midnight and 3 a.m. otherwise, so I hope that it did not spoil your viewing pleasure too much. Right, going to leave it there. Know that I love you all very, very much, and I will see you soon.